Although Princess Mary was born in Australia, both of her parents hail from Scotland. Her father, John Dalgleish Donaldson, was born in Scotland on September 5, 1941, while her mother, Mrs. Henrietta Clark Donaldson, was born on May 12, 1942. John and Henrietta were married in Scotland in 1963, and later that same year they emigrated to Australia. 2 years later, the couple officially became Australian citizens. The life of Mary, the Queen of Denmark, was marked by an event that completely upended her destiny and that of her entire family, the loss of her mother, Henrietta Clark, who passed away at the age of 55 on November 20, 1977. This incident became the most challenging trial for Mary before she embarked on her fairy tale life with the then Crown Prince Frederick. Henrietta was a woman deeply devoted to those around her. She served as the executive director at the Vice-Chancellor's Office of the University of Tasmania, where Mary's father, John Donaldson, was the dean. This close-knit Australian family was devastated by the premature loss of a maternal figure. Mary's words clearly testified to the indelible mark Henrietta left on her, instilling in her the values of independence and self-confidence. Mary has repeatedly stated publicly that it is the foundation laid by her mother that is reflected in her role as queen today, especially in her advocacy for the rights of women and girls at major international forums. In recollecting that time, Mary remembers how, having lost a loved one at such a young age, she was only 25, she felt as though the world continued moving without her, as if that state, understood only by herself, rendered loneliness and stagnation as additional barriers during that period. However, she also believes that the time spent with that person turns into a gift which, although short-lived, strengthened and enriched her. In her case, those years made her into a determined woman, capable of embracing the challenges that fate had in store. Thus, the loss of Henrietta intensified Mary's dedication to raising her 4 children, especially regarding the promotion of equality and self-assurance, and she carries out her duties at the Danish royal court with dignity, a court known as the oldest in Europe, where she has reigned as queen for over a year. The life journey of John Donaldson, Mary's father, also changed after this painful episode. Years later, he married the writer Susan Moodie. It is important to note that she was born in Oxford in 1940 and that her real name is Susan Elizabeth Horwood. Although she grew up in the iconic English city, she lived for a long time in France, where she met her first husband, the late writer Walter Birch, whom she married in 1961. She rebuilt her life with Mary's father, John Donaldson, whom she married on September 5, 2001 in Oxford. A prolific author known for her detective novels published under various pseudonyms, including Susanna Jones and Susan Madison, she released her first work, A Distant Shore, in 1983. With such a rich literary background, Moodie led the Association of Detective Novel Writers and conducted creative writing courses in Denmark, Australia, Great Britain, and France, demonstrating that her passion for literature goes far beyond just publishing books. Her father, John Donaldson, and her stepmother, writer Susan Moodie, have been steadfastly supportive throughout her life and are always ready to support their daughter. Susan and John remain married to this day. The memory of Henrietta Clark remains alive in every step Mary takes. In one of the touching interviews, given a few days before the anniversary of Henrietta's death, Mary admitted that her mother remains an integral part of her life, despite not having been able to see her in the role of a princess or meet the grandchildren who are now part of the Danish dynasty. Mary often emphasizes in her speeches how important rituals and memories are for preserving the remembrance of a loved one. The future of the Danish monarchy will be shaped in accordance with the seriousness of the new queen. Mary will always keep Henrietta Clark's legacy beyond mere court protocol, relying on the values that inspired her back in Australia long before she became part of the ancient European crown. Henrietta Clark's daughter, a once ordinary girl from Tasmania, eager to discover the world, now embodies the hope of a crown that honors its traditions while striving for the freshness and accessibility characteristic of modern times. The memory of her mother, the support from her father, and the influence of her stepmother, devoted to literature, are all an inseparable part of the complex mechanism that sustains the functioning of the royal family.